Okay, welcome to Progcast episode 5. I'm Alid.
Alid is the coolest guy I know.
I'll say it doesn't get old, but it does get creepier.
Oh, well, we're only 5 episodes in, come on.
True.
Let's see
By
how it
episode
goes.
number 20, that's going to be really, really thin.
It'll be released as a single, chart-topping single by then.
Oh, and I'm Ben. It's been a long time since I listened to the rest of that song. I'm now confined to those.
That's the best bit, what do you need?
Yeah, probably.
So what's the difference between Roger Waters and Princess Diana?
I don't know, Alid. I can tell it's going to be offensive, though.
Princess Diana's last hit was The Wall, whereas Roger Waters has continued to have subsequent hits, including the focus of today's podcast, which is Amused to Death. Were we amused to death? Or were we moved to tears, lulled to sleep, driven to distraction, or incited to violence? Well, let's find out on this week's Progcast.
No, this is a good choice, an interesting choice this week. I wasn't really aware of much of Roger Waters' solo stuff. When I was a kid, I used to listen to Radio Chaos, which I don't know if you've heard.
I haven't. I think that's well known as maybe his worst.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wasn't particularly impressed by it, and I didn't actually explore any of his other stuff after that.
So that put you off.
Yeah, a little bit. But I think it's a very difficult thing to be in a really, really well-known band like Pink Floyd, isn't it? And to go on and do either a solo career or a side project. And you see all the time, whenever people do that, the fanboys absolutely lambast them. And I think I've got some recent examples of that would be, have you heard of Adrian Smith's new side project?
No.
Primal Rock Rebellion.
So lame. Adrian.
It's the metals. I would say check it out, but probably don't. I mean,
Even if that was great, I couldn't bring myself to admit that.
Yeah.
Imagine having a t-shirt with that written on it.
it says rock on it. It's gonna be cool. The point is, though, what you basically get all the time, especially on YouTube, is people saying, this isn't Iron Maiden, or this isn't the band that you were in before.
Yeah.
And, it's always negative.
But surely that's the point, isn't it? Isn't the point that they want space from their day job, their normal
Exactly,
band?
yeah. You need a forum to kind of vent the stuff you weren't doing before. But I think this is an interesting choice, and this is an interesting solo career.
Well, actually, can I just, with what we've said, this is a totally different thing. It's not Roger Waters wanting a break as far as not the whole of Pink Floyd just, blowing up. So, well, I mean, that's the obvious place to start. How similar is it to other Pink Floyd
Well, that
albums?
was what I was going to say. I think you can't make those criticisms because actually there are lots of similarities. Now, you've already mentioned The Wall in that amazing intro, and that is, a phenomenal album, and it's mostly Roger Waters' writing, isn't it? And he's still touring that album now. Oh, admittedly, you have to sell a kidney to get along to the concert. I don't know how much that costs to go, but it's an absolute bomb. The funny thing about this is, actually, it reminds me of some of the Pink Floyd albums that Roger Waters wasn't even near.
Yeah.
The Division Bell, for example. The Division Bell opens with this kind of nice, lilting, soft intro, and then it goes into a rocky song with a lot of kind of strutting attitude. This album does a very similar thing, actually. And there are those glimpses, the other similarities that I would bring in. A great thing that Pink Floyd do is to have like sort of clips of people talking or things in the background. Yeah. This album does a lot of those, and I really liked them actually.
Yeah, if I was I'd compare it probably mostly to The Wall and the Final Cut. It has a very similar theme and a general overall feel. It's very similar.
Yeah.
To that. Very political, very politicized, anti-war kind of feel, and quite serious as well. And it's got a very similar overall mood.
Yeah, and I think the way it's presented is quite similar. If you look at The Wall, it has another brick in the wall. That theme comes back musically, so it has the song, then it has little bits from it. Yeah, this also has What God Wants, and it comes back 2 or 3 times, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it kind of has that recurring theme. And I sort of like that structure. It's quite a theatrical structure, isn't it?
Yeah.
To do that.
Well, it's weird how on this album the lyrics and music are more intertwined than almost any other album I've ever heard. It's that you can't separate out. Whereas a lot of songs you could have totally different lyrics.
Yeah.
Still fitted to the same melody, and it would still work. Whereas this, they are written as one. I mean, a good example is on Perfect Sense Part 1, when it talks about the monkey stared at the broken bone in his hand, and the strains of a Viennese quartet rang out across the land. Then you can hear the sounds of some kind of tuneless strings coming in.
It's that
and then he looks up to the sky and it goes vroom, and you can actually images in your head.
Yeah.
Of the lyrics and and it's intertwined. So as you say, it sounds kind of like a musical score almost,
Yeah.
like you're listening to a film score.
I mean, The Wall is similar to that as well because it's had big tours. It's had you got the film
Yeah.
soundtrack. It's a theatrical approach to writing where
Yeah.
and he does that with those sound clips as well. It all sort of blends in and
I think
creates
the
this
final
atmosphere.
cut was the same. That it was initially planned as a soundtrack album to a thing, and I think they then subsequently released a shortened version as a video.
Yeah.
And anti-Falklands War kind of video. So I can imagine a similar thing being done with this, and search on YouTube, and I'd be very surprised if someone hasn't done it. And it's really lyrically really focused.
Yeah.
I struggle to find think of a tighter kind of focused album in that it deals with the kind of politics and war and the failures of modern society, and a bit of kind of anthropological ethics and that kind of thing as well, which is exemplified by the picture on the album cover, which I think is again a very focused picture. But it just sums it up perfectly, really.
Yeah, I think very rarely do you get a really, really catchy song that actually has really, really poignant lyrics and a lot. And if I was going to talk about my highlights for this, I really like The Bravery of Being Out of Range. That is a song with a real kind of sarcastic, critical attitude to it, and it's kind of about gun culture, the cowardice of modern warfare, isn't it? It's about firing from really far away missiles at people that you don't know.
It's a really cynical look at politics and a leftish sideswipe of that kind of military.
It's leftish, yes. It's kind of a hippie-ishness.
That is what Roger Waters does, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is it. There's no surprise there. Yeah. But it's done really well.
It's a catchy song, isn't it?
That whole idea, and it's not just that song. A lot of the songs, it's just Roger Waters doing what Roger Waters does.
Yeah.
Like almost a distilled. Because I guess he's now. I mean, I was going to say he's now got free reign. The previous Pink Floyd albums were mostly him anyway. And probably that's why the similarity is there.
I think I want to carry on a bit with the musical similarities. A lot of the songs that you hear have kind of gospel choir backing vocals as well, and that's another thing that I think you hear on the Division Bell and stuff. He has kind of used devices that you've seen before, but they're great, and they're kind of you can see where Roger Waters is linked into the older.
What I would say is if you like Roger Waters, then you'll like it, and if you don't, then there's not a lot else here.
Yeah.
As you say, like the lyric, I think it's P.P. Arnold that does the woman vocals.
Yeah.
The woman vocals, I know what I'm talking about.
I'm a musical analyst.
Expert.
What's that sound? That's woman, actually, I believe.
A sound not well known to a lot of prog fans.
Yeah. Oh dear. That says more about the... Yeah.
It all makes perfect sense. Expressed in dollars and cents, pounds, shillings, and pence.
Roger Waters' vocals are just... It's a bit saddening to listen to. It sounds like Baron Silas Greenback trying to handle the vocals.
It sounds like Bob Dylan, but after loads of drugs.
No, it really is. It really is.
But I like that. The first line is about what's that guy looking at the priest and picking his guitar, and it's such a sort of sung in this really lazy, gritty way.
Oh, I disagree. I don't like it at all. I kind of think it's like why not let someone else do the vocals? Like he's let other people do everything else.
But you've got this problem with prog in that everything gets overproduced to 1,000,000 times and everything's got to be crisp and clear. I kind of like that you've got a prog song where it kind of balls out.
It's not though. The whole rest of it is totally overproduced, and then that is the one thing. It feels like a director in a film where it's
Insisting
like,
on
perfect. No, I'm going to take the lead part. No, I want to star in it. It's like no one had the heart to say like Roger. I mean, maybe David Gilmour had the heart to say it. I don't know.
Yeah, that was the start of the end there, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I've talked a bit about how I hear a lot of his earlier stuff in there. I want to show you a comparison. It's a ridiculous comparison, and it's not prog either. It's Tom Jones.
All right, excellent, excellent.
Let me show you a little section from one of the songs here.
Right.
This is Roger Waters.
I know what's going on.
When I heard that,
Go on, play the Jones.
I couldn't help but think. That is so Tom Jones.
Yeah, but that is just a little part of one song. That's not a, like.
It's a big part to me, Alid. It had me reciting Tom Jones.
We're gonna have that as your little ident at the beginning from now on, are we?
Can I convince you that Tom Jones is prog and do a Tom Jones analysis next week?
Right. Okay. Yeah. If you like. Yeah.
He's contemporary. He's just fire metaphors.
He's on that new telly show. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah.
Great.
Yeah, should be good.
Current
A
reference.
free plug there.
We know what's going on in the world.
Pop culture.
He's on that thing. What is that? The televisual experience. So, I presume that seeing as you're presenting this album to me, you've worked on an absolute beast of analogy to top all of the previous ones.
Oh, you've built it up a bit much there.
Oh,
I've got an analogy nonetheless, yeah.
Just keep it under 5 minutes, will you?
Increasingly encroaching on the rest of the podcast. Yeah, well, I've already mentioned that it sounds like a musical. So, it would only be fair to say what musical is it most like. And I'm going to say that this album, Amused to Death, is Fiddler on the Roof. Because it covers a very serious topic, like Fiddler on the Roof. It's a very worthy topic, but it also knows it, and it feels slightly sermony and slightly self-indulgent, and by the end you feel exhausted of it. But to be honest, it's really thought-provoking, and I always find myself, after listening to it, I'm considering the album, like when I go to bed that night and a few days later, I'm still thinking about it, still on my mind. And I guess that Roger Waters would take that. I think that's what he was aiming to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, this has been episode 5 of the Progcast. See you next time.
Laters.
And the pros and cons.
Oh,
Lovely.
That
lovely.
just tasted like Nuki Brown.
It's the Nuki Brown working its way through it.
Jesus, can we do that bit again?
No, we'll keep it in. That can be on the outtakes.
A few that I find a bit too dull, but I
God,
would.
you're really struggling to not burp up that Nuki Brown, aren't you? Crikey.
Jesus. just do your own.
Don't go like that.
Just do your own summary.
Right, so the professional will finish on his own.
Sounds of belching through speed.